Hey guys, this is the mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me for part 2 of my astrological analysis of Martell and Arionne's relationship from the perspective of Neptune. The other day I posted part 1 discussing Neptune's impact on Arionne's perspective and perception of Martell in the relationship. Today I'm going to discuss things from Martell's point of view and how Neptune has influenced his actions, his thoughts, and his perspective and perception of Arionne. Okay, so first I want to start off by saying thank you to all of the people who have signed up for the free community forum at mindoflilith.com/forum. Please feel free to reply to some of the posts, to add your own posts or your own topics to the forum so that I can answer your questions that I really can't answer in the YouTube. Again, the forum is free. It's accessible 24/7. I'm going to be posting comments on the forum, not comments, I'm going to be posting topics on the forum every single day. As a matter of fact, you can read a synopsis of this particular presentation on the forum later on today. So when it comes to Neptune, right? Neptune, as I mentioned before, is the planet of deception, delusion, disillusion, fog, fantasy, projection, magic, mystery. It is about the unification of the self with the other. There's no individuation with Neptune. You cannot distinguish yourself from your other partner. And so Arionne's Neptune, as I talked about the other day, is conjunct Martell's sun. In the beginning of their relationship, she did not have a clear picture of who he is. She only saw him for what she wanted and needed him to be based on her own trauma. I talked about the fact that the tense aspects to Neptune, the conjunction, the opposition, and the square, are a lot more difficult to navigate than the trine or the sextile. Martell has Neptune in Sagittarius, and Arionne's sun is in Virgo, which is an earth sign. This is an elemental square. It's not a square by degree, it is a square by sign and element. So Martell definitely does not see Arionne for who she is, or he did not see her for who she was until it was too late, because he was projecting a lot of his fantasies on her, and his fantasies were based on trauma. His trauma is associated with feeling powerless, feeling worthless, feeling unseen, feeling invisible, feeling like you are nothing, like you're trash, like you're poor, like you're a pauper, like you're a peasant, right? He wanted to feel like a king. So Martell called Arionne a peasant because she made him feel like a king, right? Or she treated him like a king, okay? Arionne put Martell on the pedestal. Her Neptune in Capricorn, conjunct his sun, made him to be her ideal man. And I spoke about this a couple days ago. You had better hope that if you have a Neptune conjunct square or opposition with a person, that this individual has good morals and good character, because a Neptune square conjunction or opposition to a particular sign will have you literally throw yourself away for somebody who does not care about you at all. And you will be happy to do it. Like, yeah, la, 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 la. It's almost like overdosing on drugs. You feel good on the drug, but you don't know you're dying until it's too late. But it was a great way to go. It felt good while you were dying, right? Because that's Neptune. Neptune is not like Mars, where you'll get stabbed to death or shot to death, or like Uranus, where you'll get, blown up by a bomb or whatever. Neptune is a slow, sweet death by your own hand. The death is the pain aspect of it. It's the loss. But while you're in that experience, you're having a good time. You're thinking, this is the man of my dreams. This is the woman of my dreams. The sex is amazing. They're attractive. They got money. They got power. They got status. All the while, this person is an evil demon who is here to use you for whatever, or kill you or something, right? That is what happens when you have Neptune square conjunct or opposite someone else's sun. Because the sun is the identity of a person. It's the physical body. It's their aura, their essence, their presence. With Neptune here, it's like a fog. You are projecting all this glamour and allure and fantasy and dreaminess onto somebody based on your own trauma. So Arionne's trauma was associated with not having her father in her life, and Martell represented that for her. Martell's trauma deals with the fact that he was not allowed to express his Martian temperament in a way that was healthy and liberating. Martell has Mars square his sun, and he has Mars conjunct Pluto. he has a really bad temper and he has a really large ego. But the large ego is a cover-up for very low self-esteem. So Arionne put Martell on the pedestal. And that's why he called her a peasant, because she treated him like a king. And even after Martell called Arionne a peasant, she still had a baby by him. That is delusion and deception by Neptune at its finest. Martell may have apologized, but that was deceptive apology. He really sees her as a peasant, which is why he did not wipe her up after he knocked her up several times, which is why he hasn't claimed her. So Martell also has Uranus in Sagittarius. And this is putting Uranus in a square aspect to Arionne's sun. This is intense, insatiable, compulsive, irresistible sexual attraction. But this is fleeting attraction based on unusual circumstances. So I'm married, so I can't see you every day. And the absence and the distance from each other makes our hearts grow fonder for each other. That's not hearts, that's just sexual magnetism and chemistry, right? And the chemistry was of a sexual nature. It wasn't emotional chemistry, but Martell's primary attraction to Arionne was their smoking, hot, fiery sex. Okay? Why do I say they have smoking, hot, fiery sex? Because there are several aspects to Pluto, Venus, Mars, and Uranus and Lilith in this chart. This is all sex, period. This is mind-boggling, confusing, earth-shattering sex that you cannot get control of. But once the sexual experience is over, Martell can't stand Arionne. He can't stand to be with her for extended periods of time. There has to be space in their relationship. Arionne natally has Uranus in her 5th house, so her relationships are like this in general. It is very difficult for Arionne to feel happy in a traditional relationship setting, and it's difficult for Martell to feel happy with her in that setting. Martell wants that with another woman, but not Arionne, because his Uranus is squaring her sun, and that's in her 5th house of relationships and romance and sex and things like that. So the sexual chemistry was intoxicating for both of them. It caught both of them off guard, right? And so they confused that sex with love because of their own trauma and their unhealed wounds regarding self-worth and value. So with Martell, he saw Arionne as this fantasy woman based on the fact that she was willing to submit to him sexually. She was beneath him socially. She basically fed into his Martian sensibilities. What are Martian sensibilities? Martian sensibilities are the urge to dominate, to control, to subjugate, to attack, right? If you remember during the reunion, Marceau said that Martell was different on Arionne. He was a lot more aggressive. She activated Martell's Mars, right? And Martell's Mars is also square Arionne's Uranus. This is crazy hot sex or crazy hot chemistry or sexual attraction, but it is temporary. It's almost like an explosion of a bomb, and then that's it, right? And you have to wait a few more days or weeks or months for that energy to kind of build up again. And then there's another explosion, right? But it gets weaker and weaker over time. So that attraction that they have for each other was facilitated by the fact that Martell was married to Melody. So there was some distance in their relationship. In other words, as I have said before I've done this analysis, I already said that Arionne was only valuable to Martell as long as he was still married to Melody. Melody gave Arionne value and purpose, because Melody was too busy to be sexual princess lady maven. And they have a different sexual chemistry. Martell and Melody's sexual chemistry is more, it's passionate and intense, but it's a lot more consistent and stable. Arionne and Martell's is like an explosion of a bomb. It becomes all-consuming and uncontrollable. But there's no other substance to the relationship. There are no pentacles. There's no earth here. Even though there's a sun trine sun aspect here, this sexual aspect is just so intense that it's like their relationship was created just because of that. They didn't have anything else in common besides their trauma, but that wasn't enough for them to forge a bond. With the Uranus square sun aspect, it's like we're only going to come together to serve one purpose. This is like a relationship that is come about because of unusual circumstances. What is the unusual circumstance? Martell is married to a successful, beautiful woman who's too busy for him. Now, some people say, and Martell would even say, if Melody had given Martell more time, then Martell wouldn't have had time to cheat. No, he was going through a transit. When Uranus entered Aries, Martell started to get real restless. because they were squaring his sun. When it hit Taurus, he was all over the place. He wanted freedom. He wanted sexual and romantic freedom. And Arionne brought that to him. Even though she came about in his life when Uranus was in Aries, in his 4th house, he wanted a break from the humdrum of being a married man with a successful business. Now, Martell and Melody always talked about the fact that since they got together, they were working together. They always had a shared purpose and a goal, which was to be successful in business. There was no time for frivolities, no time for wasting time on bullshit and things like that. They were always focused on building success for themselves and their children. It became a working relationship. And so the romance kind of got pulled out of it a bit quicker than Martell wanted, because Melody was on her grind. She was taking care of the money, the business, the kids. She was a wife. She wasn't a girlfriend. Melody did not have enough time to be a girlfriend. Martell snatched her up real quick. And so since they got married, when they got married, they started working together real fast, right? And for a lot of people, that will be great. But Martell has some sort of arrested development. He wanted to take a walk on the wild side. He was going through some sort of midlife crisis. He was like, is this it? Like, I got married in my 20s. I was 25 when I got married, or 26 whenever I got married. I now have businesses and kids. Like, I never had the opportunity to be a wild hoe out in these streets like my friend Marceau is. I miss that part of life. I want that. And so he started to resent Melody for restricting his freedom in that way. And then he found Arionne, who exhilarated him, because again, her sun is square his Uranus, and her Uranus is conjunct his sun. So she really electrified him. She woke him up. Like, he felt like, oh wow, this is, the best thing ever. But it was just fool's gold, because Neptune was still involved. There was an element of deception. So Arionne was electrifying the darker aspects of Martell's shadow, of his identity. This deep, intense, passionate sexuality that was not being fulfilled, but the sexuality was only being fueled by trauma, which cultivated a warped sense of identity that said that his sexuality and his attractiveness is what gave him value, right? And so because he could not satisfy Melody in those areas, she started to turn him down because he wouldn't talk dirty to her. He couldn't turn her on anymore. His ego was bruised. So now this woman is making all this money. She's the man of the household. Now she's turning me down. She's running shit. Let me find somebody, young, dumb, naive, and pretty, to stroke my ego. And I can be the man for her. I can fulfill my innermost desires, my Neptunian fantasies of being the boss, king, leader, daddy, to a woman who looks up to me and who will do whatever I say. The problem is, with Neptune, you don't see the consequences of those desires, of feeding those desires until it's too late. It's like somebody on heroin constantly looking for the next high. It feels good, but then you overdose and that's a wrap. Martell overdosed on Arionne and lost everything. And now he's like, damn, it wasn't even worth it because I can't even get this high anymore. If anyone is familiar with drug addiction, they know that over time, you don't get the same kind of high. You develop a tolerance for it. So now you either need more drug or you need a different drug to get a different kind of high. Arionne's drug is kind of run its course for Martell. She cannot give him the same high anymore because the fog of Neptune has pretty much dissipated. Now that Melody is out of the picture, he can see her for who she really is, and he gets irritated by her presence, and she is irritated by his presence too. It's like they have a love-hate relationship. There is also resentment between them now, because Arionne may realize that she was used and taken advantage of by somebody who she knew was a womanizing liar. How do you know somebody's a womanizing liar? Because they were cheating with you for 5 years. So you know they're a liar. Before Arionne got pregnant, she kept talking about Martell's red flags. She didn't say that it was red flags. She was just saying, oh, he's a liar, he's manipulative, he's this, that, and the third. When they would be on bad terms, she would dog him out. But then she ends up pregnant later, talking about, yeah, what's understood doesn't need to be said and all this Neptunian garbage, because she's deluded herself into thinking that he's actually the prize. And Martell, with his Neptune square her sun, he wanted her to believe this. So Martell was deceiving himself, and he was intentionally deceiving her. That is the square aspect. This is somebody who knows they don't want to do right by you, but they will take advantage of you to the extent that they get whatever they want from you, and when they're done with you, they'll throw you away. That is what Martell wanted. But What happened was, as long as Melody stayed married to him, Martell could not get enough of Arionne. This is why Melody had to walk away from that situation, because her being there made his attraction for Arionne grow. And Melody knew this. As a Scorpio, Melody understands how power works, how energy works. She understands this intuitively. Melody understood that once she divorced Martell, it would not be the same between him and Arionne. She may not have said it consciously, but unconsciously, subconsciously, Melody knew that by leaving the situation, by extracting her power from the relationship, she would take Martell's power away too, and that would make him look less desirable or be less attractive energetically to Arionne. He's even less attractive to himself because Melody's energy is no longer fueling him or giving him purpose. So, as I mentioned before, the chemistry between Martell and Arionne only grows when they're not together, right? When they don't see each other for a couple of weeks or a couple of days or whatever, when there's distance between them. And Martell knew this years ago. That's why when Melody left the first time, he went back to his wife. He didn't stay with Arionne. He could have stayed with her. Melody said, "You can go. I'm out." But he crawled back to his wife because as soon as he was able to fully indulge in Arionne's energy, that Uranus popped up. Uranus is the planet of independence, of chaos, of freedom, of constant movement and transformation. This is not a planet that's good for relationships long term. It's just not. There has to be other grounding aspects in the chart, but a Sun square Uranus or a Sun conjunct Uranus, that is too much intensity and it's too unstable. It's too radioactive to build anything substantial with. What are Martell and Arionne going to build together? Their energies are too volatile. The only thing they have in common was their dislike of Melody or their hatred towards Melody and lust. That's not grounds for a relationship. I'm sorry. So now there's a karmic aspect to this because Saturn is here. Arionne's Saturn is in Capricorn. I'll discuss that later. But with Neptune, there's karma also. And the karma of Neptune, in my opinion, is more painful than the karma of Saturn. The karma of Saturn deals with restrictions. It's like, okay, now you had a kid. Now you have less freedom. Now you have this black eye on your reputation. Now you cannot move and shake and do what you want to do the way you used to. That's like karma, restriction and limitations of freedom. Neptune's karma is more like an existential crisis. This is like suicidal ideations. And I'm not saying that that's what's happened, but this is suicidal ideations. Neptune is the planet of suicide too. It's also the planet of mental illness, right? Because people with mental illness may have fantasies and delusions that are not grounded in reality. That's Neptune. So there's a mental illness component in the situation also, especially with Neptune conjunct the Sun and Neptune square the Sun. If Arionne already had a mental illness before she met Martell, he aggravated it and made it worse. He made her even more unstable. He was bad for her mental health. Again, Martell's Neptune, which is the planet of delusion, deception, and self-sabotage, is square Arionne's planet of identity, of ego, of life force. Martell drains Arionne energetically. She feels weak when she's with him. She feels powerless against him. Martell's Earth Sun and Earth Moon manifested a sex slave. I said this before. Martell is the ultimate manifester. For him to attract a woman like Melody at a young age with nothing to offer, with crooked teeth, no hair, and no money in the bank, as Melody said, for him to be able to snag a woman of Melody's caliber, Martell is exceptionally lucky. He's an ultimate manifester. But guess what? He also manifested a sex slave. And God said, listen, I gave you everything you said you wanted. You're telling me you want something else too? Okay, but if you want this too, you gotta let go of what I gave you. Because that means you don't appreciate it. So, I'll give you your sex slave you want. But you're gonna lose what you asked me to give you in the first place. Because it's quite apparent you don't deserve someone like Melody anyway. So I'm going to put you with somebody you deserve that resonates with you on the same energetic frequency as you do. So Arionne and Martell share the same shadow. They were attracted to each other's shadow. Feelings of worthlessness, feelings of powerlessness, feelings of being invisible, feelings of inadequacy, of self-hatred, of needing to prove one's worth and validation by destroying somebody else, right? If I can destroy somebody else, that makes me more powerful. That is Martell's Mars square his Sun. I need to dominate and subjugate other people to feel more powerful and confident within myself. This is great for athletes, but it's not good for relationships. It's good for business, but it's not good for relationships. That's why Martell and Melody were so great together for business, because Melody's Mars was conjunct Martell's Mars, which was square his sun in the 10th house. So this was great for business, excellent for business, excellent for, competition, but it is not good for relationships. So Melody was like checking Martell, and Martell's ego felt bruised. And so the Neptune was like, yeah, I got something for you. I got a drug for you. You feeling bad? Let me give you this drug. This drug is called vagina. And this vagina is attached to somebody who does not value themselves at all. And they will be your slave. They will do whatever you say, because that's what you want, right? Don't you want a woman to do whatever you want her to do? That's Neptune talking. Don't you want a woman to be your slave, to submit to you and not ask any questions? Don't you want that, Martell? Doesn't that feel good? Yeah, it feels good, man. This feels great. I feel like a man. But guess what? Martell did not know that Neptune will allow you to hang yourself in order to teach you the lesson. The song Killing Me Softly by Roberta Flack, that's Neptune. I'm going to kill you softly and slowly, and you'll enjoy the death. The death will feel good. That is why Neptune, in my opinion, is so dangerous and it is so painful. It's awful. There is nothing worse than realizing that you've destroyed everything you've ever wanted for somebody you don't even want to be with. And what's also interesting is that this demise, Martell's demise, was captured on camera, which is ruled by Neptune as well. Neptune deals with movies and Hollywood and film and photography. Martell can actually chronicle his descent into madness, which Neptune will do to you. A negatively aspected Neptune, like I said, Martell was high off of Arionne's sex drug. I'll explain why that happened in the future. It wasn't just a physical thing. It was a spiritual thing that needed to happen, okay? In my opinion, because Martell had not yet healed from the trauma of his father not being there in his life, he had to manifest or give birth to a child that would heal that for him. So his son is going to have to do what he could not do. That is what the attraction to Arionne was about for me. But that's another topic for another day. To sum this up, I knew off the rip that Martell and Arionne's relationship was not going to last, just based on the fact that, Martell had the perfect wife. I could see if Melody was like raggedy as hell, ratchet, angry, bitter, loud. She wasn't none of those things. She was literally a picture perfect wife by most standards. I'm not saying she was perfect, like, oh, she was God. No, but she was cooking. She was cleaning, she was sexing Martell, gave him babies, ran businesses, was a professional woman, made him look good, protected his image, shared the wealth and the power with him. She was the ideal wife. And Melody said, I have no regrets because I did the best that I could do. There's nothing left for me to do here. What more do you want from me? You get this chick pregnant 3 months after we have our 4th baby during a pandemic? I can't fix it now. I can't, because I've already forgiven you several times. You want to be an addict. You want to fulfill your sexual, low vibrational, demonic desires. I can't be with you in that journey because that's not where I'm at, right? I can't satisfy your carnal whims at a moment's notice because I got a fucking business to run. I got kids to take care of, right? You wanting your meat sucked every single day is wasting my time. Your sexual immaturity is a waste of time for both of us. So I'm not going to play into it. I'm going to handle my business. I'm going to take care of these kids and do what I was supposed to do. You go run around town with your sex slave and see how that works out for you. Lo and behold, a year later, look at Martell. I'm sorry for what I did. I regret everything that happened. The fog of Neptune has been illuminated by poverty, by lack, by loss, by absence, by silence. Now you see the reality because you don't have access to the woman who you took advantage of, who you took for granted. That is Neptune. Neptune is the drug that will have you out here selling your booty for $20 for a hit. And then you have AIDS and babies all around town. And 40 years later, you're all cracked up and smoked out with nothing to show for what you were chasing after for 30 years, this drug. It took everything from you. You were chasing the high so much that it took your whole life force from you. Because guess what? Neptune is here to teach us. Even though there's fantasies and illusions and dreams, we're on a Saturn planet here. This is Saturn. You got shit to do. You got to be practical. You got to be grounded. You got to be disciplined. You got to have focus. That Neptune shit, you could leave that for your dream state. You can't live in that world 24/7. That's not going to work. Even though we're a water planet, we live on land. We got to build houses on land. We need food. And we have to plant those seeds in the soil. So Neptune is like, listen, the fantasy could be there, but you got to get work done. And so is Saturn, saying the same thing. So now Martell has to deal with the consequences of his sexual addiction to Arionne. He lost everything because of her. Everything. This is the most everything losing ass man I've ever seen in my life. Lost businesses, lost homes, lost marriages, lost money, lost reputation, lost family dynamic. I have never seen this happen like this. Like, I've seen things happen to people like, celebrities, whatever, but this man lost everything. Neptune and Saturn tag team Martell because Martell's ruled by Saturn. He has a karmic responsibility, a karmic obligation and duty to be practical, to be responsible, to build, to be mature, right? To be reliable, to build sustaining institutions that last long periods of time. Melody brought out the best in him in that aspect, definitely. But Martell wanted to feed his Neptune, and his Neptune was fed. But when we feed our Neptune too much, we end up with nothing. When we live in a world of fantasies, illusions, addictions, projections, lack of responsibility and accountability, of self-sabotage, self-deception, when we live in that world, we cannot build anything practically. And we should know that as a Black community. We should have seen this since the 80s and the 90s and the 70s with the drug addiction. We saw our parents and grandparents and friends and uncles and cousins and siblings get hooked on drugs for 30, 20, 30, 40 years and have nothing to show for it at the end of the day but missing teeth, a crooked jaw, and track marks in your arm. That's Neptune. You're chasing a high, but guess what? When that high is gone, those fantasies are gone too. And you're left here on cold, hard, Saturnian planet Earth with nothing. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to post a synopsis to this particular commentary on the mindoflilith.com community forum. I'll post a link to that in the description box as well as the comment section. If you want to order your own astrological reading, you can go to mindoflilith.com and click on I think there's a green button on the screen, and it'll take you to the order form. You'll submit payment, and then I'll get back to you within 24 hours to confirm your order and to give you an estimated delivery date. Okay? I look forward to reading your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Oh, I forgot to mention. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about Saturn and Martell and Arionne's relationship, because Saturn has definitely played a significant role as well. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.